Welcome to our podcast, Zombie Advisor, coming to you from St. Paul, Minnesota today, November 20th, 2025. On this day in history, on November 20th, 2008, the Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 445 points and 5.5% down. It was a terrible day on this day in history. Also, the weather is 44 degrees, cloudy, and winter is coming. The zombies are coming out today. I also have a special guest, Gregg Sainsbury, who's with us today. Gregg is our Chief Operating Officer for Boyum Wealth Architects. He's had 9 various jobs in this industry since the prior decade, 1999. And I wanted to introduce Gregg. Welcome to our show, Gregg.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
We're very excited to have you. Gregg, when I think about you on this job, why did you get into this industry?
Well, I started in 1996 out of college with a finance degree, which means nothing for financial advising, but it's a decent background. The reason I'm in the industry today is because the first mentor I had, named Jerry J.J. Johnson, taught me day one what I didn't know actually would matter, and that's that planning is what's important. He was a CFP in 1996, former math teacher from South Dakota, one of the smartest people I've ever met. He taught me before I knew what it meant that the way to be successful in the business is to help people and not worry about selling products. And at the time, I kind of brushed it off. But as the years passed, I realized that almost everyone is, even today, but certainly back then, just trying to sell products. And it appealed to me that helping people was a lot more fun. So that's what's kept me in the industry, and I'll never leave.
That's interesting. I mean, the 90s were easy to get caught up in, right? The average rate of return in the 90s was double digits for sure, probably closer to 20%.
Close to 20. 95 to 2000 was crazy. And that's right when I started.
Yeah, so it's easy to get swept up in that.
Yep, everybody did too. And I didn't know any different.
Well, our podcast today is about zombie advisors, right? So since you've been in the industry for a long time, you've seen many zombies out there, people who are really after themselves more than the client as fiduciaries, right? And you've worked for broker dealers, you worked for RIAs, you've worked for a lot of different companies. Why did you choose to work at Boyum Wealth Architects?
I came here because this is the business model I've been looking for. There are others, but they're few and far between, and there's a whole big country here. So in this locale, I don't know of really any or very many companies, financial services firms that do it the way we do it here. And that's leading with planning and actually treating planning like it is the service, and then asset management as being an important part of financial planning rather than the only thing that matters. And that's the reverse of how it's taught and how it's done. And again, I haven't seen very many places that actually do it that way. And so it was a stroke of luck that I met you. And when you explained the business model, I said, well, that's what I've been looking for. And so that's why I'm here.
Yeah, big shout out to Jeff Erpeling.
Yeah, it's all because of Jeff.
It's all because of Jeff, and it was all because of a wholesaler that connected me with Jeff a long time ago. So be good to good people, and they'll be good to you.
That's right.
Right.
Yep.
It's also a small industry, and so we all kind of know each other.
It's really small.
Especially in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, even smaller because of the Minnesota, the way we do things here.
Yeah. I always like to tout the fact that only 15% of all financial services firms in the country, according to Charles Schwab, do financial planning and even charge for it. So 85% are actually leading with some other product or service that's not financial planning, right? What would you say is like the number one service in the history that you've seen that people go after or sell?
Assets. So the saying is get the assets. And so in my career, what I've been not only seen, but taught is if you meet a new prospect, a new person to talk to, the tactics you need to use are you need to quote unquote get the assets, meaning they've accumulated assets. You want to manage them so you can charge fees or collect commissions. And if you do that, then you move into financial planning. The reason is because that's how our industry has migrated over time, because there's so much money and it's easy. And this is something I've been saying for years and years and years. If you actually charge somebody a fee and they have to write a check, that creates transparency and honesty and buy-in. Whereas if you can just pull money out of their investment account without them having to see it come out, and out of an IRA without paying taxes or anything, it's easier to facilitate the fee and then easier to not deliver financial planning. So it seems like, so I hear people advertise, I'm just going to charge you an assets under management fee and that I'll manage your assets. And that also covers your financial planning. Well, it's factually incorrect. It doesn't. If you look up the regulations at the SEC, the assets under management fee covers exactly that. And so the correct way to do it is to charge for asset management and for planning, or one or the other, but combining them under one fee is actually wrong. And I think it's dishonest.
Yeah, but the industry grew up differently, right? It came out of insurance and now it's evolved to assets under management. And now as technology is commoditizing these investments, you're seeing everybody clamor towards financial planning, right?
Absolutely. It's been going on for a while, but it's slow and it'll take some, I'm not saying like a cataclysmic event. It'll take something for there to be a major sea change, but you can see the trend as things become commoditized and people realize that really the only thing that I guess matters and has value is advice. And that advice is a human conversation and human understanding.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so let's talk about some zombies because that's what we're here to talk about today. The most common zombie that I've seen while working in this industry is you need to get a will and durable power of attorney and healthcare directive. And so the client will go through, they'll talk about their investments. They might ask about what's coming up in their daily life between that meeting and the next meeting a year from now. Maybe talk a little bit about tax loss harvesting or even just taxes in general. And then they'll say, oh, by the way, you should probably get your estate plan done. And then a year goes by, they have another meeting, and guess what happens?
Nothing. That's what.
Right. So is that a zombie advisor?
It is. And it's because the zombie advisor in this case is probably either not being paid or he's being paid or she by just assets under management fees. So if the client does or doesn't do the estate planning, I think the advisor often does care.
They do.
But they're not incentivized or compensated. And I think more importantly, if the client isn't paying for it, it's easy to not do it. And it's funny that you bring that up because last night I met with my niece for some pro bono financial planning, and it was basic stuff from CFP 101 of the financial planning pyramid. And I talked about you take care of the bottom of the pyramid first, and it's cash flow, it's debt management, it's insurance, but also basic wills. These people just got married. You need a healthcare directive, power of attorney, just these basic things. And I gave him all this advice. And I said, when we leave here, I will bet you money that you do everything that I just said. You won't do the legal stuff because it isn't any fun. It costs money, and I'm not going to make you do it because you're not paying me. And Lindsay said, yeah, I think you're right. That doesn't sound very fun. And I said, it's the most important thing you can do. After we leave, it's number one on my list. And they won't do it because they're not paying me. This was pro bono.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes I think it's the client doesn't feel comfortable in picking up the phone. They may have never worked with an attorney before, so it's their first experience to do that. And nobody wants to face the reality that, you know, there's two things in life, death and taxes. So I'm pretty sure that we're all afraid of dying, or we're afraid of dealing with the unknown, the boogeyman. That's what I call it, the boogeyman. So when I think about financial planning, it's about coming up with a plan and then designing how to execute that plan and then helping your client actually execute that plan. And I think you said it earlier, most people in our industry get here to help people.
95%.
And how many advisors in your history have you worked with or talked to or communicated with?
Hundreds for sure, possibly thousands.
I have too. I mean, I started in 2003. I started American Express Financial Advisors. We were in a boiler room. We had 400 advisors locally. We kind of knew people nationally. And then because it's a small community, we ran around a lot of people in a lot of different areas because I was curious as to how to do things differently. And I would say I've probably met thousands. And I've for sure done thousands of financial plans, right? Just like you have.
Yep. Thousands, maybe 10,000 plans or more.
Right. And every time you do a plan, it's not a cookie cutter. It's customized for that person, but you can see the same 27 different areas if you look at it over and over again. And you're like, here's my recommendation, cookie cutter Happy Meal, just like you did last night. You need a couple of wills, durable power of attorney, healthcare directive. It's pretty easy to slap that together. I'm pretty sure my sister is an estate planning attorney and my brother-in-law is too. So I apologize for this, but it's just scribble, new name in, and we're in what state are we in, and what do we really need to do, and how much money do we have involved? That's good. See you later.
That's right. And I told him you can do this online on basic wills. I suppose, well, I know that's better than nothing, but I told Lindsay, she works at a big corporation. I bet in your benefits you have discounted legal help. It's a very non-intimidating phone call to make instead of just calling out of on the internet. Call that, say, I need help with some legal work. I bet she gets it, and I bet she gets it for a good price.
Yeah, she could probably do it for $50 a month, sign up for the year, and she's got $600 into her basic estate plan and somebody to call if she ever gets in a car accident or something else, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, when we think about zombies and how it's proliferated itself in our industry and other industries, so, any professional financial services, professional accounting, professionally legal, I think everywhere, if you look at property casualty, everybody's waiting for you to get them the information so they can digest it. They hand it back to you, and then you have to go off and do whatever you're going to do with it. Right?
Exactly. Yep.
And that didn't occur, 25 years ago before the internet. We didn't have the simplicity of that model. It was pick up the phone, give me the information, here's what it is, and move on. But today, I see the zombie proliferating because people are trying to do more with less, and they want to spend more time outside of work, which I don't blame them for doing that either. But, you have to show up to work, and you have to be ready to work for your client that pays you to do that.
That's right. Yep. And you can look at travel agents who the internet was supposed to make extinct. And I just booked a vacation with the travel agent because I wanted that human help rather than having to do everything myself.
We did the same thing. That's hilarious. Like we were in the process of doing it right now, and it's going to make our life a lot easier.
Yep.
Just don't want to go look under 400 rocks to figure it out for myself. And it's going to save me time. Right.
Yep.
I remember when we were setting up Heritage in 2012, my lawnmower broke. My wife is stay at home. She was an attorney, so I apologize to those attorneys out there, but I get litigated on every day, and she reminds me every day she went to law school, and I didn't. Yes, I know, Kate, you're very smart. But
that's nice of her to remind you.
Yeah, she's good at it, and she's the jury and judge, so I don't win any arguments. Let's just be there. But our lawnmower broke, and I said, I'm not going to actually own a lawnmower anymore, and we're just going to use the service for the rest of my life. And when I tell people that I hire that out, they're like, well, I like that job. I go, I'd rather spend the 2 hours with my kids or doing something else than kind of a rote exercise, right?
Exactly.
Leaves this time of year, you have to do your leaf cleanup or blow out the gutters or wash your windows. There's a million things, The greatest thing since sliced bread is having somebody come to my house and clean it every week or every 2 weeks, however often we want to do that. So those jobs can be done by other people who love doing it, right? The who, not how. I love that they love doing it, that they're really good at it. They show up on time every day, and I pay them for that service. I think about financial services in the same way. And I think you said it best is I can just build the planning into my assets under management fee, right?
Yep.
At the end of the day, after a while, what's the meeting become?
It becomes talking about the investments only.
Yeah, or something changes in their life, and the advisor sees another opportunity to sell them something new.
Yep.
And that they're going to make money on. And so the advisor brings that up to their attention because no harm to the advisor. They're going to make money on it. So they need to, as salespeople, bring that up to the client and sell them a service that they didn't know about. The client needed to buy that service, and both people win. But couldn't they have noticed that beforehand and probably gotten there ahead of time?
Way ahead of time. And I'll just full disclosure is I, in my career of 29 years, have operated most of it under this model that I am now saying is not correct of I will manage your assets and I will do financial planning. And I'm a CFP and I'm fiduciary and I really care. And I think I did a very good job of financial planning while getting my financial planning fees from assets under management. But I'm here to tell you, there's no way it was as good as if I was a financial planner that also managed money. It just wasn't as good. And I knew it. It's hard. It's a different business model. So what you're doing here is hard.
We're doing it. Yeah, there you go. It's hard to scale this business model. So I don't blame the zombies for being there.
No.
Who haven't been taught to look at it differently. There was no money in it for them.
And it's still less money upfront.
Yeah. I mean, in your first year with a client, you might have 6 to 8 meetings in the first year because you want to get to know your client early and often. As a fiduciary, you have to think like they do, and you have to put their goals ahead of yours and really put all the resources on their side of the table. That's what we talk about all the time. But when we're doing it as comprehensive financial planning, clients may come to the meeting, have planning light, and then just give me their assets under management. And then every meeting after that, it's about, hey, did you get your will done? No. 5 years goes by, they don't get the will done. Guess what? Nobody ever picked up the phone to have that conversation or call to meet with the estate planning attorney and the client to get that done together. Why? Because they're not getting paid to do it.
That's right. That's exactly right. It's that easy.
But if you look at the CFP ethics as financial planners, we're supposed to do that. But there's a lot of CFPs that don't charge for financial planning, and that's where the rub is.
Yep, that's it. And then also in the CFP ethics, I should have it memorized, the numbers, but one of them is, don't do things that you're not qualified to do, diligence and all that. And so bringing in the attorney, that's what you're supposed to do, but you're also supposed to facilitate it and make sure it happens. That's your job. You don't draft the documents, but you bring in the experts to do the things that you are not an expert in.
Were you at my house last night? Because my wife, as the attorney, told me she went to law school and I didn't.
Yeah, she told me to make sure I brought that up today.
You got the memo. I see.
Hey, you. Yeah, you with the earbuds. Thanks for hanging out with us on Zombie Advisor. If you're digging what you're hearing right now and want more, or just want to talk shop, head over to BOYUMWA.com. Or hit up the show notes for links to all the good stuff. Let's talk.
Any other zombie situations that you've seen in the past, or other examples that come to mind for you as you think about, and it could be a restaurant, it could be, I've had it at the car dealership. I've had it where I get my oil changed. I'm like, all I just want is my oil changed, and it takes like 35 extra minutes because there's no system in place and nobody's talking to anybody. And the 14-year-old attendant that's standing there is just looking at me, and it's not his job to come get me and tell me that it's there. And my car is just sitting around the corner and nobody tells me. Zombie advisor.
Yeah, we can go on and on all day. Healthcare is the biggest one for me, and I have 2 kids, and so I'm talking to healthcare people all day. The doctors are generally fantastic. The nurses are generally fantastic. The system is horrific, and it's not patient focused. We have to do all the work and do all the follow-up and make all the effort in order to get the care that the doctor is there to give, and they do a great job. But the whole process is incumbent upon me doing all of the work to bring them all of the information so that they can tell me, how it works. And then the insurance is even worse. Figuring out, how much do I have to pay for this? And they never can give you a quote. So you have to make 100 phone calls. The whole thing is a zombie. But I was just thinking the most recent example I can think of zombie in our industry, the get the assets whole mentality. So I've seen this many times, and it happened to me. Client came in and they had an annuity that I did not sell them, but I was able to be the broker of record. So they signed a form. Now Greg's on the annuity, so I was being a zombie, like, okay, get the assets. So I got them. Well, I looked at it and I said, who's this beneficiary? Who is this? Well, that's my ex-wife. Do you want her to be the beneficiary? No. Well, we need to change that then. How long has it been this way? Since I bought it. When'd you buy it? 10 years ago. When'd you get divorced? 9 years ago. So for 9 years, if you would have passed away, your ex-wife, who you probably have a good relationship with, but maybe you don't want her to have all that money, she would have got it. I've seen that 1,000 times. I know you have too. It's a basic thing to do, is to check, is just blocking and tackling. And if you're not doing financial planning and charging for it, to be honest, you might not do that.
Yeah, I've seen it in property casualty too. Right. The home ownership is incorrect. So, James and Kate buy a house. We have a revocable trust. We put our trust in the house in the trust. We don't tell our property casualty agent. The house burns down. Now the insurance company says, well, the owner is not the same owner as the house. We're not gonna support this policy. Now we work with a great State Farm agent. Ian would never do that to us, but I've seen it a million times, where nobody asks the question. They get curious about, did you move? what happens is you get your papers at the end of every year. They come over, your new rate is X, and you pay the bill. And you do that over and over again because it's so ingrained in us that we need property casualty insurance, but we don't call anybody to tell them that actually we funded our estate plan and we changed the ownership structure of this. Well, I would never think to call the property casualty agent. The estate planning attorney doesn't tell me to do this. But the advisor who looks out for our best interest does a beneficiary review or an ownership review of everything every year and says, hey, wait, we need to actually stop this for a second.
That's a great point. Financial advisor can be that quarterback. If you have a good property casualty person, which it sounds like you do, I do too. Chris calls me once a year, and it's not just here's the rate. He will go through all these questions, but it's once a year. What if that wasn't when I changed my estate plan?
Exactly.
Yeah, how would he know?
He wouldn't know. And really, I'm not saying that they're a zombie. I'm just saying that's an example of how the zombie kind of proliferates itself.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't really have anything else for us today, but I'm really appreciative of our time. I wanted to reach out to our listeners today, and you can listen to us on any podcasting service. You can like us on any of those podcasting service, or you can go to our YouTube channel and watch us. And I hope that you do. Please like and friend us online. And I look forward to our next episode. Thanks for being with us today, Greg.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to The Zombie Advisor with James Knapp. Don't forget to hit that follow button so you never miss an episode. Want to learn more? Visit us at boyumwa.com, BOYUMWA.com, or give us a call at 651-289-6444. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Boyum Wealth Architects. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional investing advice. Always consult your financial advisor or other qualified service providers with any questions you may have regarding your personal investment planning.